Super League Football. Hello, I am the many-talented Mr. Jefferson, finishing up part 5 of 5 in a series of tables that just released that I would like to call the new ones. You know, because I called the other 4-part series the free ones, and I kind of wanted to keep that naming convention, but eventually more new tables will release, and then these just won't be new ones anymore. Hey, I could make this part 5 of the free one series because for a limited time you could claim this table for free after release. It was 10 days on console, which I expect to have ended by the time I finish and release this video, and for a full 30 days on PC, which means that if you're a PC user watching this video right when it comes out, you should probably pause right now and claim this table for free on Steam. Then come back and watch the rest of the video. Oh, fuck. They probably paused when I said pause now and didn't realize I wanted them to come back. I bet they're playing Super League Football right now and getting super confused for any number of reasons, and that's because this is a very unusual table. Now, the problem with adding this to the free ones playlist is that it won't be free after a month, just like none of these tables will be new when the next set of tables comes out, which is what makes it just a terrible naming convention. Hell, technically this isn't even a brand new table, this is new to FX, since it was originally released on FX2, where it wasn't just not free, it was a table that you actually paid for by the team? I found an old Steam post showing that this table had a pricing plan for buying individual teams. It's translated from Hungarian, which makes perfect sense given that it is a post from Xena, who I believe operates out of Budapest, Hungary. And now I know that for sure because I googled it right after writing the last line. The post goes, "Do I really have to pay separately for each team?" The reply, "Yes, we certainly do not expect people to buy every team. The purpose in doing it this way was twofold. You pick the team you like to support, and if you have no affiliation, you can go with the Xena FC. Each licensed team has to get their cut, and $2.99 for all teams just was not an option. So we went with separate purchases for each. That's the only way we could make it work and still have a fair price for our players." Okay. I would say that this is very unusual for a sports game, like if teams were DLC, but sports games are now actually way worse, selling you individual players in loot boxes with a variety of rarities and an algorithm that is designed to maximize profit based off of your spending habits. Especially the frickin' soccer games. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because it simply does not exist in Pinball FX. It's only in Pinball FX2, which I don't think is even available for purchase anymore. I feel I need to explain for the newer players that Pinball FX2 is not the sequel to FX. Pinball FX is the newest version of the game. They just kept the original name when they changed game engines. Pinball M is technically the newest version of the game, but the two games don't actually share any tables with each other except for that one table that they do share, and even then, that table feels and looks totally different in Pinball M, meaning that Pinball FX and M are the two current versions of the game, and anything with a number after it can be pretty much ignored as an older version, except there are still tables on Pinball FX3 that are not on Pinball FX, and one of those tables is Aliens, which is one of the best tables they have ever made, so maybe don't ignore that version of the game just yet. Super League Football is a fairly confusing table at first. The very first thing you might notice is that it's not even football, it is soccer. The next thing you're going to notice is that the table plays very differently from other tables and the rules aren't terribly obvious, especially if you don't give half a damn about soccer like I don't. There are all kinds of ramps, and sometimes you wind up on the mini table, and sometimes there are a lot of defenders, sometimes there are none, sometimes the opponents go on the offense. What's that all about? And what the hell's going on with all these multi-balls? It would really help to understand the rules of the table for most players, and that's what I'm here to do. But first I want to talk about my nemesis. Bengerman. Bengerman is a friend of another streamer, Cuddly Dragon, and neither of them had played or even considered playing pinball until I started making my pinball guides, and I intentionally introduced Pinball FX to Cuddly Dragon with the tables I knew would appeal to him to see what would happen. And then his buddy Bengerman tried the game too, but they both got hooked on pinball despite being quite a bit younger than I am. It turns out fun games are fun. It doesn't matter what generation you're from. Who knew? I want to try to explain Bengerman's playstyle. Everyone knows that old saying that if you put 1,000,000 monkeys in a room with 1,000,000 typewriters, you will eventually wind up with the works of Shakespeare. Well, Bengerman is like that one monkey who actually typed Shakespeare, but with pinball instead of a typewriter. Bengerman knows like 3 things about pinball. Don't let the shiny ball fall off the table, aim for the pretty lights, and when you hit those pretty lights, the game makes noises, and noises are fun. I caught Cuddly and Bengerman playing pinball in voice chat one day, and they were chasing my high score in fishtails, because it's one of the free tables that I recently covered, and I asked why they weren't playing the new free table, which they then immediately downloaded. They were playing Super League football, and before I dropped off the call, Bengerman had already beaten my high score on the table, and he hadn't even known that the table existed an hour previous. To be fair to myself, that high score was pretty low for a high score. I had played the table a couple of times, and I had hit the top 10%, but I hadn't played what I would call a good game yet. But damn it, I just got beat again by this pin monkey. Both of these clowns beat me on Portal, which sucks because those scores are going to be really hard to catch. But the very worst part is that Bengerman also beat me on the Garfield table too, and before you laugh, he's in 31st place, right above... Oh hey, it's Crow Continuum. I was just talking to him on his live stream a couple of days ago, and if you know anything about Crow, it's that he pretty reliably hits wizard modes on most tables, which is to say he's a damn good player. Oh wait, I forgot. Bengerman is in 32nd place now. Oh, I bet it still stings. And here I am reopening that wound and rubbing salt and lemon juice in, totally by accident. It's not like I scripted this out over a week ago, because if that was true, boy, this would be pretty insensitive. Unfortunately, I was not the one who literally knocked him down a peg on the Garfield table. I hate this table, but I really can't stop playing it until I finally spank that monkey. And now he's beating me on this new table too. So I better learn all of the table mechanics so I can beat that simian with science! I am going to start, as I usually do, at the flippers, but fuck me, this table is already weird. There are 2 flippers below the 2 standard flippers in the out lanes, which aren't always out lanes, and there are 2 in lanes besides the 2 standard slingshots. And there are 2 sinkholes which are not accessible from the top, but are accessible through one-way pass-throughs from below, and already we have the most unusual configuration for the bottom of the table I have seen so far. We already have 4 flippers, there are still 3 more flippers on the table. Was there a sale on frickin' flippers or something? Oh, right, they're digital, so yeah, they're kind of free. There are also 4 more sinkholes on the table and a whole mess of crisscrossing ramps and habit trails. Normally I just talk up one side of the table and right back down the other, but the rules of this table don't really support that approach. So I'm going to try to list the goals of the table, which is primarily to get goals. And it's not going to be immediately obvious how that is accomplished, so I'm going to take a more process-oriented approach, because the whole hit this ramp X number of times to start a mode shit does not apply here. Super League football consists of seasons. Each season consists of 5 home and 5 away games for your team. You want to win as many matches as possible and become the Super League champion. Each match consists of 2 halves, and you win games by scoring more points. Duh. If the match ends in a draw, a penalty shootout will occur. At the bottom right of the table, there is a pass meter. Completing lanes, ramps, and the trick sinkhole will increase the pass meter and remove targets from the mini playfield. The meter is a combo system, and when the combo ends, the meter will start to drain. I believe it drains faster if you are matched up against better teams, which is sometimes why it feels like you lose possession of the ball really fast. If it becomes completely depleted, the opposition gains control of the ball and you have to shoot the lit lanes to regain possession. Hitting a lane, ramp, or trick shot hole to advance the pass meter also lights a letter of pass. Once all the letters are lit, a 2-ball multi-ball will start. These letters do not light up just for hitting the pass lane, because this has already been a very unusual table, so why stop now? There are also lamps on the cross and long ball ramps you need to light to enable the mini field. The 2 in lanes have rollovers, and lighting the rollovers allows you to shoot on the goal, which you can do by hitting the cross or long ball ramps to access the mini table. Yes, you cannot score unless you light the in-lane rollovers, because this is an extremely strange table, and not only that, you can also cycle the rollovers with the flipper, which is one of the only features on this table that is in any way familiar to me. Having control over the rollover lights means you can avoid taking shots on the goal by rotating those lights to avoid hitting the rollovers if you want to keep building combos, and you are still trying to remove defenders. And likewise, if there are few or no defenders, changing the rollover lanes makes it really easy to take a shot on the goal. On the mini field, eliminating targets makes scoring easier and increases the points value of goals, jackpots, and super jackpots, which is why you want to remove as many defenders as possible before taking a shot on the goal. It's just worth a lot more to do that. You can also receive penalties and penalty kicks. If you get the penalty, you are defending and you will control the goalie. If you get a penalty kick, you're the one shooting on the goal. When you are in possession of the ball, the lower flippers are active. A ball catch will activate and release the ball. Hitting the ball through the one-way pass-through is a tackle, which allows you to retrieve the ball to your side. Or you can wind up hitting the sinkhole, which will hold the ball and shoot it towards the flippers at high speed. Draining the ball when this happens will count as the opposing team scoring. You do not lose the game if your opponent scores, or even if you lose a match. You keep playing until you lose all of your balls, not the matches. The goal celebration is a multi-ball, which drops all locked balls onto the field. There are 3 ball locks, and hitting one while it's lit will lock the ball, which will stay there until the next goal is made. The ball lock lights are controlled by the slingshots, and there are bonuses for each locked ball. This game doesn't really have modes, so we're just going to kind of go straight to the wizard mode now. Each time a goal celebration multi-ball is started, the flashing player lamps become fully lit. Once all of those player lamps are lit or flashing, and a goal is scored, the wizard mode multi-ball will start. The wizard mode has the same rules as the goal celebration multi-ball, but doubling scores is active on the whole table, and super jackpots will also award a golden goal, contributing to the score in the current match. All 4 balls will be launched, but the relevant perks will only be applied for the balls that were in the locks. Alright, and then the other things we might call modes are the halftime multi-ball. This is a 3-ball mode and starts automatically at the end of the first half. All lane shots will make the mascot perform a trick, and when 1 ball remains, shooting the dugout sinkhole will start the second half of the match. The dugout sinkhole awards 1 of 6 coach awards. After an increasing number of bumper hits, a manager's award becomes available. So that's what the bumpers do. Different awards will be available during different modes. This is also where you can collect extra balls, including the random extra ball award. But you have to hit the dugout a second time to claim that extra ball. There are 5 extra balls available on the table. You can get one from doing 3 skill shots. Oh, hey, Pacific Rim did that too. There's also Tiki Taka, which is performing an 8-way combo. Great. More confusing football slang. Let's see, what is that? It's a particularly effective method of short passes and movement to open lanes and advance the ball on the goal. Well shit, that's basically the table description right there. You can get another extra ball from a coach's award for completing 3 free kicks. You can also get one from a manager's random award. The final one is from Skill Mastery by starting all 7 possible Skill Mastery multi-balls. Holding both flippers brings up a status report which will show you which extra balls you have attained. That is what the table instructions say. I still have not gotten it to work properly. There is a persistent trophy case. I will try to find a list of all the trophies, but most likely it will be pinned in comments below. You receive trophies from various achievements over the course of a game or over the course of a season. You get one of them for 3 successful defenses in one game. You get one for starting the wizard mode. It looks like there might be 15 in total with 5 per shelf, which gives you a visual reminder of your achievements on the table while you're playing the game. This table also has something called a hot seat mode, which is kind of a couch co-op mode where physically locked balls can be stolen between players. It is up to 4 players on a local machine only, so you have to actually be physically present if you're going to try to play this mode. Alright, so that was the table, and now that I've gotten to know this table a little better, it's time to see how this little story played out. Did brains win out over brawn? Or did brute force and good reflexes triumph in the end? Over the course of writing this script, Cuddly Dragon was actually the one to beat Bengerman, and he did it in my favorite way possible. He pulled the old penny over trick, which is what I call doing the least amount you can possibly do to win, and it gets its name from a betting strategy in the show The Price is Right. This is kind of the pinball equivalent of teabagging. To just barely defeat somebody you are in an active competition with. It's the most infuriating way to be defeated. Sitting there knowing that if you can just beat your own personal best, you will also beat your rival. It's just a beautiful thing to see. Sadly, I wasn't the one to beat Bengerman, but I was the one to beat Cuddly Dragon, putting me in first place in our little competition so they can both suck my shiny golden balls. I can tell you exactly why it happened too. I had just finished writing the section about how to set up a shot on the goal, and it's probably the single most important piece of knowledge because it lets you control the table. It lets you set up your bonus multipliers before you get to the victory multi-ball. It allows you to avoid shooting on the goal, so the ball will continue on as part of a combo that will remove defenders, and it will let you attack when there are no defenders. And that's why I was the first one to hit the wizard mode in my group. That one piece of knowledge made all of the difference. And the problem is that now that I know that, they know that. Which means I'm going to have to keep improving, but that comes naturally. As I continue to research these videos, a lot of the process is putting those notes to the test by actually playing the table so I can understand what is happening a lot better, because I need to convey that information to you in a way that makes sense. It's no coincidence that I have broken into the top 10% of players on each and every new table. It's just knowledge and experience. But of course, I had no experience on brand new tables. This is from researching the other tables and learning how those work and figuring out how to line up those shots and learning how to predict where the ball's going to bounce. On the topic of experience, I want to show clips of one of the best players currently making content. It's from a video he made 6 years ago that he didn't think would even get 100 views, and the table is Super League Football. This is from the original release of the table, which doesn't seem to have changed at all, except it's missing the team microtransactions, which actually might wind up making a comeback because it doesn't seem all that offensive to have the option to support your favorite team. especially when the cost of the transaction is literally just covering the cost of licensing the team franchise. It was not intrusive in the older version of the game, or at least it didn't matter to me because I don't care about soccer at all. Now, Crow already knows I watched this old video because I commented that everything old is new again, and he hearted that comment. And while I would normally ask a creator's permission before clipping their content, this footage is 6 years old, and the video has already gotten more views than he ever expected it to, so I feel like if I link that video in this first impressions video in the description below so all of you can watch it for yourself, he should be okay with that. You can watch for yourself the amazing transition over the course of this particular video from just one of pure frustration of a man who can't make any shots to the absolute joy of someone hitting multi-ball after multi-ball once he's figured out the timing on the shots. And I find it fascinating to see the same person I just watched on his latest stream dominating the newer version of this table.
Who's gonna sit and watch this whole game, because I don't know, I have no idea what the time is right now, but it's gotta be over 20 minutes. Might even be over 30 minutes, I don't even know. I've completely lost track of time.
Like I said, the link is below. Crow was playing just as badly as I was when I first got this table. Pure skill will get you pretty far, knowledge will get you further, but experience is really king. I love competing with Fantavision and Cuddly Dragon and Bengerman because we're roughly on the same level. I'm enjoying it so much that some of us are starting a podcast together. Bengerman isn't a streamer or a content creator, so he's not a core part of the podcast. He will probably show up here and there to trash talk me because he's beating me at Garfield. He just loves that shit-ass table for some reason. And one day, I hope I'm good enough to compete with Crow Continuum. That's the goal anyway, but he's really good. Oh, son of a bitch. I just realized who Bengerman had to beat to get his high score on Garfield. So if I'm gunning for Bengerman's high score, it looks like I'm also gunning for Crow Continuum on a table with, let's just call them surprise physics, because the ball will randomly redirect and speed up for no conceivable reason, but the fact is we're all playing with the same busted ass physics, so it's an equally frustrating playing field. And Crow, if you happen to be seeing this video, I know it's a jagged little pill, but if you can change the name of your Super League video to Super League Football, you will probably get thousands of new views on an old video for like 5 seconds of work. I know. As an American, it is a bitter pill to swallow, but think of the search algorithm. Dig deep within yourself to realize what I do. I give as little of a shit about football as I do about soccer, so I really don't care what it's called. I'm just going to use the proper table name so viewers can find my tutorials easier. Super League Football is a very different pinball experience. In many ways, it redefines what pinball can be, taking many familiar elements and utilizing them in unique ways that reflect the sport being showcased. World Cup Soccer is an amazing table, and it's easily one of my favorite Williams tables, but World Cup Soccer is clearly first and foremost a pinball game, where the layout and rules for Super League Football lean far more heavily into football than the pinball part of the equation, going so far as to name the combo bonus extra ball after an actual passing technique instead of just calling it an 8-way combo like any other table would have. This table does a great job of immersing football fans and confusing anyone who is only a pinball fan and does not care at all about soccer, just like me. If you haven't already downloaded the table, it might still be free. Make sure to get into your library right away so you can save your money for the other great tables that just released. And then you can use my own guides to try to beat my scores just like Cuddly and Bengerman and even Fantavision on a good day. And the three of us will be seeing you in the near future in a regular podcast discussing digital tables, some real tables, and with some regular gaming content mixed in because we all stream a variety of games. Until then, I would like to thank all of you who watched these tutorials. They took a lot of work, but it's work that I enjoy, and now I have a group of people to play with, and that's important because pinball is a very social game, even with its very apparent single-player nature. I also want to thank all of the viewers, channel members, my subscribers, and my recent sponsors who helped me afford all of these tables for Pinball FX2 so I can make these reviews. I will be posting about the new Pinball Podcast, which will be hosted on another, better established channel, and promoting the tournaments we will set up over on my own channel. And if you haven't already, you should really take a look at my reviews for the brand new tables because Xena, Knight Rider, Battlestar Galactica, and Pacific Rim all have something different to offer, and they are all fantastic tables. This is the end of the 5-part series on the new tables. I already have a 4-part series about the free tables, and Super League Football is an honorary member of that series because I certainly got it for free while it was still available. Before these tables released, I had started pre-scripting videos about a fantastic pack of Star Wars tables, so keep an eye out for those in the near future, and I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre is only a couple of days from coming out, so be on the lookout for that video in the very near future too. It sounds like a bloody good time. Until then, toodles! Super League Football additional info. Some things I figured out since writing this script. Removing defenders not only makes it easier to shoot on goals and makes the goal reward more points, it makes it easier to continue to score more goals because the goal multi-ball will retain the same amount of defenders, which will also make it much easier to get the huge super jackpot bonuses during victory multi-ball and the golden victory multi-ball, which can skyrocket your score in the match and your actual score on the game at the same time. The player lamps are lit by locking balls, which is another great reason not to shoot on that goal too early. Lighting up all the player lamps is what triggers the golden multi-ball. There is practically no point to actually shooting on the goal if you have not locked any balls yet, or you haven't removed the defenders. Scoring goals with no locked balls awards very little points, and there's no goal celebration, and the goal celebration has the jackpots and the super jackpots, which are worth like 2 to 10 million points apiece, and it's way easier to get a high score than racking up goals, and it's just way easier to rack up goals if there are no defenders during normal gameplay. Goals might seem important, and they are, but the ball locks and the combos are far more important. Hitting an out lane while on attack, which means shooting on the goal, will end your attack as your opponent technically gains control of the ball. Hitting the sinkhole after this will award the other team a corner kick, which requires you to hit a lit lane or the other team will score a goal. Shooting the ball through the pass-through but not hitting anything is called safety first defending, and hitting the rollover is the most desirable way to save the ball and is considered the tackle, which does something. It might give you a lit lamp so it's easier to get back to shooting on the goal, but like most things on this table, I'm just really not sure what's happening here. Speaking of not sure, I believe the long ball, the cross, the dribble, and the 1-2 all just give you a 2-ball multi-ball when they are lit. I really don't know, but this seems to be the case. The announcer will say they've mastered that skill, and then you get a 2-ball multi-ball, as opposed to the shout out for the pass multi-ball. Oh, and that like target button over in the corner raises the player score jackpot from the dugout award. That's what the hell that thing does. It took a while to figure that out. And finally, a special message for Fantavision because he managed to come up from behind and crush us all, proving that he is a worthy opponent, but his high score isn't as secure as he would like to think. Of all these tables, Super League Football is the one I played the least. I thought it might be because it's my least favorite out of all these new tables, but I've been having a blast playing this table now that I know how it works, and I think I've figured out I just have too much of a good thing with so many awesome new tables being released just all at once. And a good way to fix that is to start a tournament. The first episode of our new Pinball Podcast should be out soon, and we will be running weekly tournaments as part of that podcast. We're starting with the free tables, and since Pinball FX is cross-platform, keep an eye out on my community tab to get those new tournament codes. But before I go, Fantavision, I want you to know one thing.
You have sided against us in battle, and this we do not forgive or forget.